Order. First thing we've got on this is roll call.
Okay. Good evening. So Chair Banak,
Here.
Vice Chair Martin,
Here.
Commissioner Varnes,
Here.
Commissioner Mishra,
Here.
Commissioner Bottenberg, and Youth Commissioner Yang. Thank you.
Like to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, let's stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good. We've got,
Excuse me, Chair.
Here, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Chair Banak, could you please use the microphone?
I'll
Thank
move.
you.
Sorry. Good. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Good. All in favor, say yay.
Hey.
Yay. Any nays? Good. The agenda is approved. Next, we'll do approval of the minutes from July. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
I'll second, we approve the minutes.
All in favor of the approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The minutes are accepted. Rita, I believe we have some public comment.
Yes, Chair. If you want to go to the. Okay, all right. Yeah. So it's available now. I'll just.
Can you hear me okay? Good evening. My name is Jill Clacy and I work at Kindring, a not-for-profit neurodevelopmental agency. For over 60 years, Kindring's been serving children with disabilities and other needs. Thank you for this opportunity to speak in support of our pending funding requests for 2 of our programs. Both of these programs are offered at no cost to participants, and both are currently supporting Sammamish residents and childcare providers. First, I'll talk about childcare preschool consultation, or CCPC for short. We're working hard to meet the needs of all of the children, but we are finding many who need extra support beyond our scope. These words were spoken by a preschool director and capture what we have been hearing from other childcare and preschool providers in the communities that we serve. CCPC uses on-site individual child and classroom observation, consultation, coaching, and training to help support childcare and preschool providers meet the individual needs of the children in their care. These are also examples of strategies used to help increase the likelihood that a child will be retained in their original childcare setting. When children engage in behaviors that teachers find challenging, they are more likely to be expelled from their program. The impact goes beyond the child, as loss of childcare can also mean loss of employment for the family. Unfortunately, children of color and children with disabilities are disproportionately at risk of being expelled from childcare or preschool programs. In 2023, Kindring's CCPC program served 229 children, the majority of whom identified as Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Nearly 60% of all children served were referred for developmental evaluation. As an important indicator of the program's success, 97% of the children served were retained in their original childcare setting. Second, our Families in Transition program, or FIT. FIT supports the needs of young children experiencing housing insecurity and their families through pediatric therapies, early education, parent coaching, and outreach, case management, and connection to resources. A staggering 75% of children experiencing homelessness have one or more major developmental delay. Last year, 89% of children involved in FIT programming made measurable improvement in their development. We kindly ask the Commission to consider recommending funding to support these programs, which have been making a positive impact on the lives of children, families, and childcare providers in the city of Sammamish. On behalf of Kindring, thank you again for this opportunity to provide public comment.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you. There's no other public comment. We'll go to new business. So I think right now, the next, we're going to be finalizing the 2025-26 Human Services Grant recommendations. Did you want to kind of walk us through the slides? And
Sure. If you recall, in our July meeting, we, as a commission, you all agreed on the final recommendation. And so staff has gone ahead and produced a PowerPoint and also a memo. We'd like to just walk through the PowerPoint and get any feedback from you guys. So I'm going to walk through, and please, like, it's super informal, interrupt if you have any questions. Okay, so that's the first slide, and then the next one is just going to give an overview of the presentation and what we're covering in the presentation. And look at that. I mean, I'm sorry, but do we have the most good-looking commission? I think so. So we had just showing the reminding City Council of our commission. And then the following slide is also just, you know, showing the deep experience that our commissioners hold. And we go on to human service needs, and we've just got some sort of, we're really trying to sort of give some context and teeing up like what's happening in the community. So a few pertinent information points. The foreign-born population increasing from 23 to 35% in 12 years. 37% speaking a language other than English at home, high youth population, and also housing affordability. And on the right, we have a graph there just showing the aging population, how it's increasing over time.
Rita, I know we had mentioned, I mean, is there any way to kind of, if the question comes up, where we can discuss like housing affordability of Sammamish versus perhaps our neighbors? Would we be able to respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, staff can look into that. I don't know if it's necessarily, I mean, I don't know the answer to like
Okay,
whether
sure.
it's a comparable, if it's apples to apples or apples to oranges. I think as staff, we can get that information and then provide that, and then you can decide whether you want to like talk to that as well at the PowerPoint. So, okay, so you want to just know for the last point, the housing affordability, whether we can kind of have something with our neighboring East Side cities as a comparison.
I think, yeah, that's something that my thought could come up, would be, hey, from the city council is like, how do we compare with Issaquah, Bellevue, Mercer Island, Kirkland, Redmond, and on affordability?
Sure, yeah, we'll get that information to you as a commission, yeah. Okay, and the next slide is just understanding community needs. We're just trying to show the council, you know, how much work you as a commission have done. You know, spoken to various providers over the last 3 grant cycles, having joint human service commission meetings, and then also site visits to nonprofits. So really sort of trying to show that, like, you know, you guys are the experts in this area. The next slide. So we just look at the 5 priority areas, and these have all been updated from the last go round. So 1 in 3 women experience domestic violence. 4% of residents live below the federal poverty line. 46% of residents over age 75 have a disability. And then the following slide, 37% of Sammamish residents speak a language other than English at home. And then 13% of Sammamish teens have considered suicide in the last year. So we've got up-to-date stats from the Health for Youth survey and the American Community Survey for all those stats that we're providing. So we're going to now just talk about the grant review process, teeing up like 85 programs applied. The total funding request was 15% greater than the last grant cycle at 1,342,758. And that our budget was 682,736. We're just, again, like, even though it's very familiar to you as a commissioners, I think it's just very good for the council really to just have an overview of how, what the process is. So we get the applications, check them for completeness, the commission reviews and subgroups, you discuss and debate as a whole, as a commission, then you vote, and then you make the recommendation to council. We show that we use a score sheet as a first touch. All the commissioners use that just to initially have a first touch review applications. And then we assign commissioners to subgroups. Everyone reviews the grants independently. Subgroups provide their preliminary funding recommendation to the commission, and all for 85 applications are discussed by the commission. So just really showing council that there's been a deep dive. As commissioners, you're privy to all 85 applications, but there was a deep dive according to your subgroup. And then the commission worked to develop the base recommendation. However, this budget level wouldn't allow us to fully fund the programs that we found valuable to residents. And so the commission unanimously agreed to additional funding. And then we bring up the recommendation. So here we have a pie chart just sort of breaking down the recommendation in the various sub areas. Also with seniors, even though it doesn't show up on the pie chart, this also doesn't include the 85,000 per year that the city provides for senior programming at Beaver Lake. And then we're just sort of showing here just how the intersectionality of all the applications. So if there's a domestic violence survivor, they may need basic needs and they may need mental wellness. So really kind of showing how all the applications are not all siloed, like there's a lot of intersectionality between all the groups. And then just, some things that we've heard, like post-COVID, the impact on teen mental wellness in particular, and then just that the commission's recommendation supports, for instance, and this is just some examples, a full-time therapist seeing over 200 residents annually, comprehensive behavioral health programs, mental health and substance use disorder counseling, culturally nuanced mental health support. So we're just going to give them some example of the kind of programs that are being funded. Then, so again, the summary is that the commission worked hard to develop the recommendation based on the current level of 682,736. However, the commission is recommending the council approve an additional 34,622, and that this additional funding will help ensure our resources are prioritized towards driving a real and noticeable impact to the residents in Sammamish. And that's the end of the PowerPoint.
Could I see page 8 statistics, the percentages on the needs assessment? I see that the percentages were different from what was sent out to us.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I beg your pardon. I'm so sorry. Yes, there is. We revised because we sent out the packet on Friday, and we were able to revise that and really look. And yeah,
Can I
yes,
see that page 8?
it's up now.
Yeah.
Is it the one with the needs? I think it's
I got
the.
page 9. I needed page 8.
Is it this
The
one,
domestic
Joyce, or
violence.
Commissioner Bottenberg, or is it the one with the seniors chart with resident numbers?
Where we are right now. is what
Oh,
I'm
okay,
looking
yeah. And so yes, I beg your
at.
pardon. So
4% versus 4,000, and 1 in 3 was compared to 27%. Okay, got it.
okay.
Updated. Thanks.
Also, so that's and any questions on the PowerPoint?
How do we slide in the fact that we haven't done a needs assessment since 2017? And we're still using some of these statements.
So the statements here have all been like updated. So yes, they came from the needs assessment, but we've all updated them according to like the 2023 Healthy Youth Survey and the American Community Survey 2022 5-year predictions. So that's all been updated. I feel like when it comes to the needs assessment and whether it being updated, I don't know if this is necessarily the right venue to bring that up. I mean, of course, if council brings it up, I think that would make a sense for you as commissioners to talk to that. But I think the intent of the October 8th meeting is really to just provide your recommendations and talk to them about the process and maybe questions relating to particular grant recommendations. I'll
I
give to
think the
Mike.
other thing as well is, yes, the needs assessment is quite old, but as the slide shows, you all have talked to 48 different nonprofits over the following 3 grant cycles. And so you've really learned a lot since that point.
What was the count? 48?
48 in between 2019, 21, and 23.
Does that mean the discussion or spoke with partners, is that when they came to our meetings and presented, or we went up to on-site visits? Is that what that is?
So site visits to nonprofits is a separate line item, but the 48 partners are people that have been coming into meetings. Over COVID, it was virtually or in person. Yeah.
And that's from 2019?
Yes, yeah,
on,
yeah.
uh-huh. Is there any place where you'd say that in these grant cycles, so many community members have been served over this time?
So we can provide that if that would be useful
Has
to you.
council, have they ever asked? I mean,
So I think when we've had a joint study session, I think we did, and we were able to provide those numbers of like, and I've forgotten the number now, that 8,000 residents have been served. So, I mean, like, if you would like, would you like to have the number for the last grant cycle, for like last year, or would you like it over the last 3 grant cycles? I mean,
I'd like to see
I
all,
can,
all 5 years.
okay, so,
So we know which is the difference between 2016, 18, 20, 22, 24.
okay, I'm happy to like, yeah, we have that information. So, I can collate that information and, try an Excel spreadsheet, or maybe Mike can help on that. And, yeah, we can provide that.
okay.
One of the challenges with looking at the number of residents served is that often it's not apples to apples. So a resident served at the food bank is a lot different than somebody who's spent a couple hours with the counselor. It's just a kind of
True.
a different
But it's
scale.
still a person.
It is a
It is
person.
still a person. So yeah, we can look at that. There's just gonna be some caveats since we've looked at these
Some
numbers
people
before.
multiple times, we know
Mhm.
that too. So.
And well, I do hear what you're saying, Commissioner Bottenberg. I suppose it's a way of personalizing the impact of your funding. Yeah. So yeah, we'll bring it. We'll work on that this week and send it out to you guys, and then to you commissioners, and then you can absolutely use that if needed. Yeah.
Would it go in the slideshow? Do you?
Or would
I
you
think
like
it's a
it?
conversation.
Okay. Would you?
Oh,
The
Okay.
questions may come, or maybe it's slid in for additional information, but not on the paper necessarily.
So would you like it as a talking point?
Yes.
Like, yeah. Okay. We can provide that. Yep. So I'll work on that. Yeah.
Or maybe as a
Well,
support slide. in the
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If it looks interesting as a graph, you might want to put it in because the funding levels have gone up and if that's impacting numbers served, something like, if it looks interesting in a graph, I think it might be good in the deck.
Oh, wow. Well, I can't do the graph, but Mike's son can do the graph. But no, okay, that's a really good point. So yeah, so we'll look at those over the last 3 grant cycles. Commissioner Bottenberg, you were saying you want to go back to task force?
Well,
And
yeah,
recommend-
let's go
okay.
back to the task force, because
Yeah.
that number was much less number of grant proposals.
Is that
I just don't want to
information?
scare them of the fact that we've got more people, more money's going out. That's all.
Is it easily accessible? I mean, do you have that?
Yeah, no. We keep data on that. So
what I
yeah, we can absolutely do that. So we're happy to put that together and if we can like try and figure out where that fits so it's a good flow. But yeah, that's great information. Yeah, that's
And of course, the all-purpose question is how much budget do each of the cities have versus their population?
So I know. in
For
the
example,
past-
we knew in the old days that Issaquah budgeted $10 per resident for their human service grants. I'm sure over time it's grown.
Yeah.
And how do we compare to Redmond?
Well, I mean,
et cetera?
as a commission, that's up to you. I mean, I will say that, like sometimes, like, yes, we can absolutely do that and show a comparison of per capita.
I think one of our problems is we don't have too many services located in our city limits. And so our people have to go elsewhere. And that some of them, for example, with the porch light congregations for the homeless there, they would sometimes just say that they're from wherever they are at the moment,
Okay, yeah,
Bellevue, Redmond, whatever.
right, right. Yeah, because we know that as Smemish residents, if they're facing homelessness, they don't necessarily have services here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if
I had a question. So before we conclude, very interesting, points. I just wanted to know, what is need assessment? Is that a process which we conduct as a city, or do we get the statistics from somewhere else?
The needs assessment was done in 2018. I believe it went when you became commissioner, we sent that to you. So it was just a needs assessment and we worked with a consulting firm. They spoke to community members, community groups, and it was the first time that Sammamish actually ever had an idea of what the needs were in the community as it relates to human services. So that was done in 2018. Obviously, as Commissioner Bottenberg was saying, things have changed, COVID happened. But that was the first time that the city actually did an assessment, just looking into the needs of the community.
It's online. I mean, you can go up with like Sammamish city needs. And it's kind of interesting, but you can tell it's very dated as well.
And I guess that was one of my questions, is how do we really make that tie that, yes, it was 2018, things have changed a lot, but I mean, the needs are still relevant, and I think these slides do it. I just think we need to make that just very clear.
Maybe something like says that leads into, and we should maybe for next year reevaluate our needs or update our needs, a kind of a hint, hint, hint.
Potentially, yeah.
The-
I mean, I guess if we
Definitely a
don't,
talking point.
if we don't feel like these, the statistics are still backing up
Mhm.
what the needs assessment says. I mean, I think we have talked about, right? We have talked about making sure
Updating
it's
that, yeah.
refreshed, yeah.
And Commissioner Varnes, I would also say that, yes, it may be outdated, but I think the focus areas still stand.
Yeah, and that's what I want to make
Yeah,
sure everyone
yeah.
feels is clear in here,
Sure.
that it's still, seniors, domestic violence, that those are still the key areas.
Yeah. Mental health is,
Mhm, mhm.
but I don't know, do we want to kind of maybe put in a hint for next year that,
An asterisk, probably.
I mean, I don't know if that's the forum.
Yeah.
You said this might not be the forum to do that.
And I think, yeah, if I may, part of the, what I wanted to bring up as part of this presentation is that a lot of kind of the discretionary projects that we have going on right now have been cut out of the proposed 25-26 budget
Mhm.
because after all the departments went through, we've done multiple scrubs to do some cuts, some eliminations down to the level of training budgets. We're still in a projected deficit of a few $1 million or several $1 million over the 2-year biennium. So my guess is that a kind of a discretionary project like updating the needs assessment wouldn't probably be a priority for the council at this time, but I do think that, kind of as I was saying earlier, those discussions that you've had with providers, the site visits, is essentially what they were doing with the needs assessment, right? It was talking to the community.
Yeah.
We just don't necessarily have it memorialized. I know we took some notes after some of the meetings that we had with providers and things like that we can kind of try and go back and look for. And on a similar note, I think, when we went, we had our last meeting in July, I think the budget projection was a little bit different. We've updated those numbers, and like I said, the deficit is not looking great. Council's going to be faced with potentially needing to raise new revenues. And so while in the budget, we have the base number budgeted the 682,000, we don't have in the city manager's proposed budget, the additional 34,622. Because like I said, we've had to go through and do a major scrub of the budget. So I think, council is very supportive of human services. I think we'll most likely retain that base budget, but I would caution that it's probably unlikely that we'll get the additional 70,000. But at the end of the day, we're still funding all the organizations that the commission had recommended. It's just going to be at a slightly lower amount. We'll get slightly lower service units if that does happen. But I think, we make the recommendation, we make the ask, and then as council's going through their budget process, they're going to look at, the commission wants the extra 70,000 over the 2-year biennium, but we also have all these other needs. How do we kind of balance that? And so it's going to be a tough budget process. And I just want to make the commission aware that kind of what we talked about earlier, the forecast changed slightly from our July discussion.
Is it 70,000, the difference, or is it 34?
So per year, so that'd be
Oh, I
times
see,
2
of
over
yours,
the 25, 26. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious the city doesn't have the extra 100,000 to run a new needs assessment, but if we can just plant the seed there.
Yep. It was actually something that Rita and I had been talking about as we were putting together our budget. It just wasn't something that we could include this go around. But if there are certain areas that we want to look into, we can do the deep dive on our own. We don't necessarily need a consultant to come in and write it for us. So that's something we can look at.
Plus, in the history, how often have we done the need assessment?
It was just the once.
Just that once?
Yes, yeah, in
Okay.
2018, yeah.
Yeah, because I just wanted to compare that data as to what were the difference in results. And if there are not much of a difference, then probably we can just go ahead with this. But yeah.
I think the needs assessment largely uses census data,
Hmm.
which is relatively easy to search. So we can kind of look back to see historically, for certain stats, how things have changed over time, which is what we did on the demographic slide. So yeah, like I said, if the commission's interested in any certain area, wanting some historical data, that's definitely something we can put together for you guys.
It would be kind of interesting if we could see also in this look back at prior grant cycles, how much it's changed in the dollar value that is basic needs versus mental wellness versus the other 3 too.
Or
The
we can,
jumps, because right now, of course, looking at the paper that says seniors get $2,200, it's probably because there weren't enough applications too, or on-time applications. And we need to see what were they the last time and the time before and the time before. Internally, not necessarily before the council.
sure, we can put that together, yeah. So, okay, so we'll put together the number of residents served over the last since 2018 with human service funding. We can provide that. And then also with the PowerPoint, we also have a memo that was sent to you, and that's just to accompany the PowerPoint, really reiterating a lot of the points that we made in the PowerPoint.
I just had one question. Or
course.
sorry, one correction. It's Mary Martin at the top.
Julie Martin.
It's from Rich Benak. Go to the header.
Okay, sorry. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Huh,
That.
good. Didn't even notice. It's you.
Okay, so we're just like, again, very similar to the PowerPoint, just really giving context, talking about the process, and then talking about the recommendations. And this is just to accompany, this will go in their packet.
Any other questions, thoughts, input?
Oh, only one thing when I look at the final sheet on the summary part. I just want to know, because I can't remember, this is what we're saying we're recommending. And this is what was requested. I just always want to know, and what was last year? I mean, what was the last amount funded?
Yeah, that's easily, let me
You know,
just
if we
quickly.
could
get my-
just kind of stick it up there in the summer, just, I mean, we know it's 15% more, that was already said, but
Yeah,
I can't do that in my head.
right.
Is there a way to just stick that in there somewhere, or is that just a talking point that I need?
We
to know?
can add that as a talking point. So tell me exactly what you want. You want to know for the last grant cycle, what was requested versus what was allocated, or the jump? Because I know the last grant cycle, I think there was an additional 200,000 that was added
As a
to
request?
the recommendation that was ultimately approved by council. So we made a big jump the last go round.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to know that.
Sure,
Yeah.
we can provide that. Yeah.
I'm looking at mental wellness in 2023-24. And of the applicant proposals for this year, there were 4 new ones that appeared for mental wellness this year. So of those who asked again this time, it came to 179,000 the last time. It's like, okay, now we've jumped to 224 with these additional 4 plus the increases for the other. It gets very intriguing when you're trying to do a look back, because you don't have the same people. For example, in the seniors, you've only had 3 proposals coming in this time, but before there had been like 6 proposals coming in
Yeah.
because they moved into mental wellness or they forgot to submit.
Commissioner Bottenberg, I think, yes, it's very hard. Like, it's not apples to apples over different grant
Exactly.
cycles. And it really is dependent on who's applying and what kind of applications we get. Okay, so we'll provide that data, Commissioner Martin, about last grant cycle, what was requested and how much was allocated.
Other thoughts, input? I think one of the thoughts that would be is that myself and Commissioner Martin would present, but we'd have everybody there being able to talk as subject matter experts in their area. Is this something that people?
Sounds good.
Okay.
But you'll be up there speaking the whole time, and we are in the question and answer period.
Right, so Commissioner Martin, myself, we'd split this up, and then if there were any questions, we'd then be able to defer to the experts, like
Like
in
last
mental
time,
health or
yeah.
domestic violence.
Can I also, sorry, can I also just say that if the commissioners are there, like if City Council asks any questions, don't feel like if you don't know the answer, you don't feel compelled to answer. Like, as staff, you can bump it off to us, and we're there to help you and assist you guys. So please don't feel like you're on the spot. And they might, and it really does depend on the council. Like, there'll be in the past, there have been councils that are like more home in on one particular application, and sometimes it's a lot. So again, if you're not sure or you don't want to answer, you can bump it off to Mike or I, and we're happy to answer.
So it sounds like that's what the current plan, we'll do that. But we've got everybody, we'll have the experts there. And if, again, something we can always defer to Rita.
And what was the date of that council meeting again?
And it's Tuesday, October the 8th. I'm not sure where we are on the agenda. It would be nice if we're somewhat, listen, I sit next to the city clerk's department. I don't know, like maybe we can, but no, we'll give you a heads up of what time that looks like. But I'm hoping not be at the beginning of the meeting.
Any more questions or feedback on the grant proposals? The presentation?
So you and Commissioner Martin will be presenting the slides as we saw them today,
Yes.
right? And not each nonprofit as to like how much are we allocating to each of them, not that, just the overall number, that's all, unless they have questions about each of them. Okay.
And then in that case, Rita will have that information. So, yeah.
And Commissioner Mishra will also give them like this big page that will also be included in the packet.
Oh.
So if City Council so desired, they can absolutely like really look in the specifics of where that funding went.
Any homework which should be done by the other commissioners here?
You know what? No, I think like, I think we've shown in the slides and the PowerPoint just like the process and how you've worked together and how you've reviewed all the applications. So please don't feel compelled to look at 85 applications. Like, you're volunteers, you do incredible job getting us to this recommendation. So yeah, and I highly doubt that they'll be that granular and that specific. Yeah.
But they will have this sheet.
Yes,
Well,
we'll
and
provide
I
that.
think it indicates really nicely their request and then what we recommend, and they can see we gave them all thought and we didn't just hand out money willy-nilly, you know? So I think that makes us look good and thoughtful.
Mike,
think
what's the process beyond, council getting our recommendation, fitting into the budget? Could they come back to us and say, we can't fund that amount, go back and take another look? What's that process?
That's kind of we'll cross that bridge if we come to it scenario. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but because of the timing of things, when we present this in October, the council is scheduled to adopt the budget at their last meeting in November. It's like November 20th, roughly. So for them to submit that direction to you all, and then for us to do that and then go back, it'd be very tight timing. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen, but if it does, we'll just have to convene a meeting and essentially say, this was the direction from council. They asked us to cut the budget by X%. And we'll just hash it out as the commission does.
So a similar question. I think the North Star question in that meeting at the end would be, why should we give you more than what was allotted, right? And that why is something which I think as a group, we should be like thoroughly prepared with, like the points. And I think inflation in general should also be mentioned if we have any statistics about how the inflation has affected. Probably that also can be added as to one point on that slide, like, okay, 1 to 5, these are the reasons why we are asking for more. Because ultimately it just gets to that. Everything is just getting to the same funnel, right? Just why more?
Yeah, I think that's probably a very likely question that will come up. So that's something that Rita and I can work on a new slide for that. Maybe even calling out an example of, for example, like I think cross-path counseling, their grant request went up, and I'm assuming that's because salaries went up and cost
Yeah.
of doing business went up.
I think that's a big thing, non-profit staff retention, and also making sure that the people that are serving people, at our poverty level are oftentimes like non-profits, they're earning minimum wage and they're actually having to go to those same organizations for services. So really giving them a livable human living wage. And then staff retention within non-profits, and with inflation, as we know, everything's gone up. So yeah, that would make a lot of sense, Commissioner Mishra. Yeah.
Great questions. Anything else? Anything else we'd like to bring up or? Great. Yeah, I'm very confident, based on at least the last time, I think they were very supportive, especially of mental health. So, and I think we can show that we've done a very great job on this, been acting as responsible, agents for the city. So. Good. If there's nothing else, next new business, staff reports.
Hey, right, good evening again. So okay, we had a month off in August, but we're back. So the next event, we actually have a welcoming week. So the city works with the other east side cities of Bellevue, Issaquah, Redmond, and Kirkland, and they all have a welcoming week proclamation that all the mayors sign, and that was signed at the last council meeting. And we are working, the city is collaborating with the chamber. So next Wednesday, there's going to be a welcoming farmers market. There's going to be 6 different performances from around the world. And there will be 6 nonprofits attending, like culturally nuanced nonprofits. And we also have KCLS and the Sammamish. And then Mike and I will have a city table where we ask people to put a push pin as to where in the world were you from. And that's quite funny. And then we're giving out Tootsie Pops. So that's fun. If you know anyone from Africa, please send them there because we don't have anyone in yeah. So we want to fill that continent up next week with someone from Africa. Also, we met with CrossPath. We're also put together in the next newsletter. It's coming out in October, and there'll be an article on CrossPath there. Speaking to the clinical director, Zach, summer tends to be quite a quiet time for mental health counselling, and with the new school year coming, there's always a need and there's always a big uptick in demand. So we've worked on an article that will be going out in October to all households in the newsletter. Let's see. Oh, and then I'm working with, I don't know if you recall, I think Commissioner Bottenberg, you might recall, we used to have something called Nourishing Network cards, and they were little sort of cards like this big, and the police have them, and we have them at City Hall, and it's really to provide someone in need. It has lists of all the shelters and basic needs. And so I'm currently working with the City of Issaquah for us to revise those Nourishing Network cards. And we're looking to add a QR code because we're moving with the times. There's only so many organizations we can fit in there. So our hope is to have a QR code that will then
Just had
so-
phone numbers the last time.
Yes, and it
Mhm.
still will have phone numbers, but again, it's a small card. And we are trying to get as much information, but it's like for vital emergency needs. And so we'll have a QR code. And so a lot of people have smartphones, so they'll be able to access other resources. So we're working on that. And that's always a joint collaboration between us and Issaquah. And we tend to share a lot of the same providers as well.
Just to have in bold print 211 is a good solution for everything.
Yeah, I think that's the
Yeah.
top one. Yeah.
I had been working with Bonnie down there at Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank about getting it renewed because their staff, their volunteers had been working on the last one.
Right.
So let's hope that happens this generation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So hopefully, in the next few months, that will be produced, and we'll be able to hand it out and at various places and give it to the police as well.
Good.
And then finally, we have a city council meeting on Tuesday, October the 8th, and we have a scheduled human services meeting on Wednesday, October the 9th. We would just like to know if you, as a commission, would like to still have the October 9th meeting, or would you, yeah, it's up to you
My
guys.
thought is that we probably don't need an October 9th meeting if we're going to be presenting the commission on the 8th.
Would we have anything to talk about? Would CrossPath come in and talk to us?
No, we don't have anything scheduled. Yeah, I'll have to look at the calendar, but yeah.
It can be a celebratory meeting then.
So would the commission like to still keep their October 9th meeting or cancel it?
I suggest canceling it. We have
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm okay
that.
with that. Yeah.
Do we need to vote on that, Mike, or is that, okay, all right, thank you.
so we'll do the 8th and then we'll cancel the 9th and meet back in November. Good. Anything else, Rita? No. Commissioner reports. Any commissioner reports?
Well, we have nothing to do in September. And on the 21st, the Together Center in Redmond is having its open house again from 10 to 1. And that's a very worthwhile stop and walk around and visit all the organizations that are there. The other is that the senior program, the advisory board team for Sammamish seniors, which includes the Indian American Community Services, the Eastside Friends of Seniors, the Sammamish Friends, and also having the chamber working with us. We have a Aging Well resource fair coming up on Saturday, October 12th from 10 to 2 at the Presbyterian Church. 70 invitations have gone out there to nonprofits and service organizations to have a table within that big front room that they have. And the whole idea is to learn what else is available, who else to talk to. So there will be representatives from various services, other nonprofits, knitting groups, bridge groups, how to get involved with things, who to call about what, whether it's housing needs, the whole gamut of things. And so the logical thing is come on there yourself, and there's also refreshments, entertainment. We will have specific speakers such as for the Poison Center, medication management primarily, scams and frauds, and a couple of other good ones. I was thinking of this. There's the Washington Assistive Technology, which has various show and tells and funding to be able to provide things to make turning jars right and being able to walk this way, being able to handle this and all that. And just to see what else is there and available, because most of us are isolated. And it's a good thing for the families also to know. So there will be some kids stuff too. Of course, the chamber has something coming up this month, again on the 21st, over at Central Washington University. And it's a fun and entertainment. It's an afternoon program. And again, it's pretty much businesses being able to be identified within Central, the whole Sammamish area in one spot, so that individuals coming in can learn more about local commercial needs, commercial opportunities. And meanwhile, Rotary is upping its excitement for the Christmas tree sales in November, December. And we had a beer garden at the city's Jubilee in August.
Wow, we're already talking about Christmas.
I wish we had Nightmare at Beaver Lake again. Boy,
Why, has that been canceled or?
it stopped in 2019.
Uh-huh.
2020 couldn't do anything. 21
Uh-huh.
was the same. The Scare Productions was our partner for actor training, the wardrobe, and it just became too much. They were pretty much located down in the Kent area,
Mm.
so the commuting up in there. It was so much fun though, even in the rain and the wind.
And a large moneymaker too, wasn't it?
Yeah, Rotary's portion of the net was $150,000. All that goes out specifically for international services, community services, vocational services, youth programs. Now we make a net of about $26,000 on Christmas tree sales.
Oh.
So we're doing a lot of more hands-on things like filling food banks at the Ithaca Food and Clothing Bank, picking beans and all at Elk Farms down in Renton or Kent or wherever it is. Anyway, it's hands-on programs, but it was more fun making money. I'm done.
Good. Any other commissioner reports? If not, I think next is next meeting agenda topics. I think we're going to cancel on the October and do the commission. What do we know what's coming up for November?
You know what? Let me check. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, we have something planned. I believe it's a non-profit coming in, but yeah, I'll have to get back to you now. But
Okay.
yeah, I'll have a quick look. Yes.
Any last issues? Anything anybody wants to bring up? Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
I.
Hi.
Any nays? We're adjourned.
Right.
Good.